Good evening, and welcome to Soluble, America's Political Central. Today is Friday, and today is issue day here at Soluble. Each week, we delve into political topics, and then we always set aside Friday for an issue that, we find near and dear, and at the same time, we're looking for a solution for it or to it, if you will. And, that's what Soluble is all about. Um, Once again, striving to take a deep dive into the truth of the matter, to the heart of the matter, and hopefully bringing about a solution that works for all. Now, police brutality from a Negro perspective is oftentimes different than it is from other ethnic groups in America. And we're not here at Soluble to suggest or say by no means that only Negroes in America experience police brutality. That's not what we're saying. What we want to address from a Negro perspective is the level of brutality, um, the time period or the stint of time which it has lasted throughout American history, and trying to find or come up with an end game or a stopgap measure, if you will, to let there be an end all to police brutality. Now, if you're a police officer in America and you're coming from a Caucasian persuasion or a Caucasian viewpoint, and you're a police officer in America, subject to go out on patrol in any American urbanized rural area, especially urbanized areas, if you have fear and or loathing when it comes to dealing with Negroes in America in communities that are made up a majority of Negroes, then our position here at Soluble is you really ought to second guess this occupation, this way of life. We often see on the patrol car, to serve and protect. This is the officers pretty much their duty. But fear and or loathing coming from a Caucasian police officer going into a black community is definitely not a good mix. And we often hear about, when these situations happen, we oftentimes hear one of the main things is more training is needed. And we're not here to shoot this down and suggest that is BS, but how much training does it take for an officer to go out and serve and protect and give any citizen, law abiding, breaking the law, under question, or whatever, give them their due process? Give them their due process. So, the beginning of the problem we feel here at Soluble is Caucasian police officers who have in their hearts and minds fear, and or loathing when it comes to Negro communities all across America. Now, I mean, we see the duality, we see the dual standard, when it comes to, as I said, the level of brutality, the oftentimes that it happens versus other racial makeups in America. It's right there. It's blatant. I could go on and on. Um, you know, Walter Scott, Michael Brown, something as egregious as Tamir Rice, you know, not to mention the latest George Floyd. But, we're not here to take it at or from a case by case basis. I mean, like it's say, it's there, it's happened, everyone saw it, everyone knows about it. Where we're at on this day here, on this Friday on issue day, as far as police brutality is, what does it take to solve it? Now, first of all, as I said, if you have fear or loathing in your heart and mind when it comes to it, you're unqualified. You're unqualified. That would go a long ways in stopping it, curbing it, bringing it to a stop. Because, oftentimes we hear this weak excuse that the officer feared for their life when there is not a history of Negro males killing officers on a regular basis who are simply being pulled over for a minor traffic violation. There is no historical marker, there is no statistic that backs up that level of fear that an officer claims to have during a simple traffic stop when it comes to a Negro motorist or Negroes in general. So, having that fear, as I said, going along with the loathing, having that fear that your life is in danger and now you're on a hair trigger should make you wholly unqualified for the office, because this level of fear is something that in large part is based on an overreaction, you know, an excuse, if you will, an excuse to overreact when the statistics do not back it up. There's no statistics in no police department across America where you will be able to see that there was an alarming number of attempts on officers, not an officer singular, but it has to be a plurality. So you won't see that statistic nowhere in America. As you look at across any American police department, you will not see an alarming statistic, an alarming rise in shootings or attempted murder of a police officer by a Negro citizen who is being pulled over for a simple traffic infraction, traffic violation. So the fear right there, that's why, here at Soluble, our stance is that should be a disqualifier, a non-starter, if you will. If you're afraid to go out into the Black community and police Negroes in America, if you have a fear there, then that's an automatic disqualification. Automatic disqualification. So continuing on, fear. Fear is a non-starter. If you're going to be a police officer, it should take a certain amount of courage, because us armchair quarterbacks, we have to realize, and me myself, I know that it's not an easy job. It's not an easy job. It takes a certain level of concentration there. It takes a certain level of thick skin, mainly, in order to be a successful officer. First of all, you're not going to find too many happy citizens, whether it's a traffic infraction. Well, in most cases, where it's a traffic infraction, because if you do the crime, then you know that you're facing time. Excuse me, if you get caught. But in a vast majority of traffic infractions or a situation where officer has pulled over a motorist for a traffic violation or what have you, there's going to probably be a citizen there who is somewhat upset, moved, or bothered in having a negative reaction to the fact that they're being pulled over. Therefore, you need, thick skin, if you will. Should be one of the qualifications there. A high tolerance level for BS, for a high tolerance level for attitude. Understandable. I mean, there's only a certain level you can go before, of course, you could be hit with another charge if the attitude goes too far the wrong way. But thick skin will go a long ways in, we feel here at Soluble, producing a successful police officer on the streets of America. Now, oftentimes, this is Soluble stance. Oftentimes, it seems as though, especially when it comes to Negro males in America, when the officer is addressing you, pulling you over, questioning you, he wants you to give up your manhood, if you will. He wants you to take on a posture of emasculation, to belittle you, to not give you the respect that a full-grown man deserves, to handle you like you're some kid, some boy. And that's a no-no. I mean, of course, it's been a long history of it in America. It's been a long history of it in America. This action, or this officer approaching, especially Negro male citizens in America, with this type of attitude, can easily be a powder keg, because we're not going back. We're not going to be subjected to a double standard of policing in America, where we're, quick to be denied our due process just simply because we might give a smart aleck answer, or we might not answer at all, or we might give the answer that the officer doesn't like. And all these can be grounds for the officer to begin to react with violence, to threaten violence, to act upon violence, to stick you with charges that oftentimes when they go to court, especially as of here late, they're thrown out. They're thrown out. So that, that will go a long ways in solving a lot of the problem. That will go a long ways in de-escalation. And that is hard. That is hard, especially if you have the loathing there, and we're going to get to that here in a little bit. But if you have the loathing there, then that's going to be hard for certain officers who may be racist, to give the citizen, their due process, to approach the citizen who is a subject of the stop with respect. Is that too much to ask in de-escalation, in going all out to have a situation here where you pull over a motorist and having to resort or find yourself in any kind of situation that may suggest police brutality? That would go a long ways in stopping it, just simply by doing that. And that it seems, for Caucasians in America, that seems hard to do. That seems very hard to do, to give Negro citizens, Negro motorists, their due respect when you stop them, when you instigate a stop for any kind of violation, running a red light, improper lane change, whatever. It doesn't have to escalate to this. So it's what's in the officer's heart and mind that is causing the police brutality. And from back in the day to now, the police have felt a need, or felt as if they were there to keep us under control, so to speak, as far as Negro citizens in America, when they're patrolling Negro communities. And that's not the case at all. That's not the police officer's job. First of all, for Negro citizens in America, we have to know, and we do know, we should know that the police officer is in no way can serve in a role as a parent. So there are certain things when it comes to respect for law and order that we have to learn at home. Not to teach our children to bow down, to be afraid, to be nervous, to hurriedly put both hands in full view. We shouldn't have to live like that. We don't have to live like that. And when the stop is instigated, then it's up to the officer. It's up to the officer to control the situation. And it's all about how you approach a person. So, as far as police brutality in America and the police officers concerned, no fear, thick skin, and going at a situation with de-escalation in mind, with respect for due process and respect for Negro citizens in America. This will go a long ways in curbing police brutality in America. We cannot and we will not be patrolled, be policed with a double standard. This cannot be sustainable in Negro communities in America. By no means. We have law-abiding citizens and law-breaking citizens of all stripes in America. Of all stripes. But yet the level of brutality is largely inflicted upon Negroes in America. And oftentimes, in often cases, from a soluble point of view, from our point of view here at Soluble, oftentimes it's because Negroes in America will not bow down. They will question the stop. They have a right to ask questions. Why are you stopping me? What did I do wrong? And from the officer's point of view, it shouldn't be just sit there and shut up and stay in the car and follow orders. That's total disrespect. And you're not doing your job there. You're not doing your job there. You violated the oath right off the bat, right there with that response. Because by no means does those type of responses, that type of personality, comes across to the citizen, the motorist being stopped, being subjected to the stop as respectable for something simple as a minor possible traffic infraction. What gives? I mean, here you have a Negro citizen, minor traffic infraction. Nothing like if they wanted. They fit the description for a murder suspect. They fit the description for a carjacking suspect. Oftentimes, this brutality is simply from a minor traffic violation, a traffic stop. Oftentimes, this is where it initiates from. But nevertheless, wherever or however it comes about, where there's a situation where there are Caucasian officers who are going into the Black community to do policing, that we will allow the hands of time, the clock to be turned back to, even an egregious time where you could just be thrown in jail for things that were made up. Never got your due process. This went on a lot during the Jim Crow era, and it created almost like a new caste system for indentured servitude here in America. If you know your history, you will know this. So, we've suffered it for a long time. We've endured it for a long time. And it's come to a breaking point. Tamir Rice was very egregious. Very egregious. And then, along comes George Floyd, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So, to my fellow Negro citizens here in America, when it comes to being stopped by the police, it would be discouraging and it would be un-American of you to feel as if you have to act any particular way other than, you know, a normal reaction. It's normal for uh American citizen being pulled over in America to question the stop, to ask what did I do wrong. It's normal for questions along those lines. It's somewhat normal for a citizen to ask for an officer's badge name and badge number. It's acceptable. And if the officer doesn't have anything to hide, if he's not doing anything wrong, why not freely give it up? You have nothing to hide. You're not doing anything wrong. This stop is an open book. This particular traffic stop is an open book. And if police brutality is not solved, if it's not stopped, if it's not curbed to the point where it becomes non-existent, it's going to be to the downfall of the police department, not the American citizen. It's going to be to the downfall of the police department, not the American citizen, not the American Negro citizen. I mean, we have come a long ways. And in that distance that we've traveled, we realize that before there's a Caucasian officer who comes into the Negro community with fear and loathing, that, we can police ourselves. In that distance that we travel, we realize that there are things that are happening to us that wouldn't be happening if we were telling ourselves what to do. So America really needs to think long and hard about this when they're sending Caucasian in uniform into the Negro community. Loathing. The second part of the non-starter, what should be a disqualifier for a Caucasian officer to patrol in Negro communities. Loathing, hatred for Negroes. How can you serve and protect in a responsible, caring manner for a race or nation of people that you hate, that you have hatred for? There's no way. There's no way. In the small town that I'm from in Georgia, there were Caucasian guys that I worked with, and we worked a late night shift in a grocery warehouse. And we would get paid late at night, and sometimes you would want to go by and get you half a pint of gin, or whatever your choice of relief was. And I know for a fact from some of my Caucasian coworkers that when they got pulled over in the small town that I was from, that I frequented, that there were the cops asking them, what are they doing down here? Don't you know this is nigger town? This is Niggerville. So it's there. The hatred is there. The hatred for Negroes is there. Now, oftentimes we don't have the proof. We don't have the evidence. But with the advancement in technology of body cameras that should be worn, we can be assured that the officer is carrying himself in a right about way. And what does that say about police officers in America? That now it's come to the point that they have the body cameras are required and required to be turned on. What does that say? What that should tell Negroes in America is that there's a person who was born and raised with certain beliefs and certain feelings towards others in other races. And putting on a uniform and pinning a badge to that uniform doesn't change those beliefs. Doesn't change those beliefs. So that's largely why we're here now at the point where officers have to wear body cameras because of their unethical behavior, their dishonest behavior, planting of evidence, taking a calm situation and stirring it up to make it hostile. Police brutality in America. Thank God those days are coming to an end. We have accountability standards now, and it's going to be up to us as a people to make sure that they're enforced. It's going to be up to us as a people to make sure that they're enforced. I mean, and it goes a long ways back. But being active, being engaged, being aware, we can put a period to this. Negroes in America, we can put a period to this. And, to Caucasian America, you have to understand that we demand our due process when we're pulled over for a traffic stop. We don't think that, we're above the law. We don't think that we should be able to talk to the officer any kind of way in a threatening manner or whatever and not face an additional charge that may be on the books that we qualify for with our behavior. When that time and place presents itself, let the chips fall where they may. But I can sit here tonight at Soluble and say with absolutism that Negroes in America do not feel like we're above the law. What we expect is equal treatment under the law from the executive branch. We expect equal treatment under the law. Put aside your fear. Put aside your loathing. Can Caucasian police officers do that? And if they can't, then that automatically disqualifies them from coming into Negro communities anywhere in America to do police work. That automatically disqualifies them because fear and or loathing are not feelings, emotions that should be stirred up in any police officer. Either one of the two. Both of them or either one of the two when it comes to dealing with especially people who are not of your race. People who are not of your race. And, historically, culturally, and just, by the way it happens in everyday society, we know that Caucasians are some of the most racist people in the world. Facts. So, police brutality in America, when it comes to hatred for Negroes, hatred for as the way, they act, the way they carry themselves, the way they look, just hatred for Black people in general should be an automatic non-starter when it comes to police brutality in America, because this is where the attitude begins. This is where it begins. There's no statistic to back it up, but yet, time and time again, officers have got away with saying that they feared for their life without no actual evidence of fear, without any solid concrete proof that in that moment they thought that their life would be taken. There's nothing to statistically back it up. As a matter of fact, if you look at the statistics, you will see that statistically, Negroes attempting to murder police officers during a traffic stop are way down versus officers who have instigated traffic stops when it comes to Negro citizens and have pulled a gun and shot them or did them some kind of harm because they thought they feared for their life. It's just an excuse that would no longer be tolerated, that would no longer be accepted. We've turned the other cheek, and we have no other recourse now but to stand up to police brutality in its ugliest forms, in its most fanciest suit and tie forms. No matter how they try to wrap it or package it, if it's police brutality, it's police brutality. So there you have it. Fear and loathing. Our position here at Soluble is that fear and loathing is the beginning of police brutality when it comes to Negroes in America. Stay out of our neighborhoods with it. Do we need the police? Yes. Do we need officers patrolling in Negro communities in America to keep crime down, to deter crime, to solve cases when it happens? Of course we do. But we need those officers to come in and serve with respect, serve and protect, not serve with disrespect, as oftentimes is the case. We're watching now. We're watching. If an officer is part of a police department, and one of the policies is that body cameras must be worn and actively on at all times during any traffic stop, and it comes to a situation where it's not on or it's on but it wasn't recording, that should be automatic termination. That should be automatic termination when it comes to police brutality in America. If we want it solved, then we'll have a zero tolerance for that. And if an officer really values his job, his paycheck, being able to take care of his family, he will make sure that that camera is on and rolling when he initiates a stop. He will make sure of that. So, we as Americans, you talk to the professionals, the retired officers, those who've been on the beat and are now, on the other side, retired and can offer their professional advice. Oftentimes, as I've said, it's training and more training. But how much? How much training? And if the officer's already out patrolling, working the beat, he should already have the adequate training. He shouldn't have to go back in, because it's not like we can expect or accept that a police officer is thinking that, okay, well, I got trained and I went out in the streets, but then Negroes change. Negroes' behavior changed. Their bodies changed. They were able to start doing different things. So now I have to go back in and retrain because Negroes have changed. That's not the case. One-time training and then out into your communities to do your job, to serve, to keep the peace. If the people are not changing, then there should be no reason to have to go back in and retrain or to train again. You're dealing with the same people. But we don't know, here at Soluble, we don't know, we don't believe, it remains to be seen. We would like to hear it from a Caucasian perspective. Can you train an officer not to have loathing in their heart for Negroes in America? Could you train them not to have contempt in their heart because they're patrolling with it? It's this loathing at the forefront of their actions when they initiate a stop, and they automatically feel as if we're second-class citizens or we're less than them. This is a powder keg. This is an absolute powder keg. So if police departments in America, across America, don't get their act together, then it's going to be to the downfall of the police department, the police academy, policing as an institution. It's going to be the downfall is going to be there. The setback is going to be there. The negative consequences are going to be there. Now you have, here as of late, since Brother Floyd was killed so blatantly, now you have officers who don't want to work anymore as a police officer. They want to resign. They don't want to be policemen anymore. Why? Nothing has changed. but simply the fact that they can't get away with it anymore. They can't do it like that anymore. What they thought of and considered the good old days, that's over now. And here they go. Here they are. Since now they have to be better policemen, be upstanding, righteous policemen. They rather resign. They rather quit. They rather walk away from the profession. Not that it's gotten bad. That's not the case. It hasn't got bad. It's just that they can't do it anymore. Are Negroes in America breaking the law? Of course they are. Of course they are. Is crime in Negro communities in America high? Is it oftentimes? Does it happen all too much? Of course it does. Of course it does. But that's where the officer has to have the thick skin. Come in, do your job, let the evidence take you where it may, do your job, investigate, and if you have a suspect, apprehend him. But apprehend him in a professional policeman manner with due process. Respect his rights as a citizen, even when or during the process of placing him under arrest. We're not trying to say here at Soluble that, we're subjected to unfair arrest, unfair scrutiny when it comes to crime, because Negroes in America are committing crime. This is a fact. This is a fact that we will not try to deny. But there has to be a level playing field. There has to be a level playing field because, crime is being committed throughout the whole melting pot, across all racial stripes, across all racial demographics, makeups, background. There's crime that's being committed. So let it be an even flow there. That's what we're asking here at Soluble from a Negro perspective. That's our deep dive into so far what we see as the truth when it comes to police brutality happening in America, where it begins. Where it begins in America from a soluble perspective and how to solve it. It begins with Caucasian police officers going out into Negro communities to patrol with fear and loathing in their hearts and minds. That sets in motion the wheels turning towards police brutality. Are you going into totally innocent, pristine, law-abiding neighborhoods? No. But due process is the order of the day. And it's your job as policemen to make sure that it's carried out. To make sure that it's carried out. If there is a incident, a situation like what happened to Brother George Floyd, then you can expect the uproar. You can expect the uproar because we want equality. We demand equality. We will not be resigned to someone else's idea that we're second-class citizens. We will not go for that. So we want equality. And we're going to do whatever it takes to get it. First by peaceable means. But police brutality in America towards Negroes must stop. There's no way that we know here at Soluble, there's no way that a Negro police officer can roll up on a kid who's playing with a toy gun in a park and shoot him in less than 3 to 4 seconds and get fired from that job, get fired from the police department in that city, and yet go to another city, to another department, and get hired on again as an officer. We know that that's highly unlikely to happen in America if a Negro police officer does that to a child of Caucasian descent playing with a toy gun. We know that. So we want the same thing. We demand the same thing. Or we must stand up. Caucasians in America, especially police officers, but throughout all branches of government, legislative, executive, and judicial, especially to police officers. You know, we demand justice. We demand equality. Caucasians in America have not, tried to prove that great brother Malcolm wrong when he said that it's a corrupt, vicious, hypocritical system that's castrated the black man. They have not tried to prove that wrong. They've only continued to carry it out, to perpetrate it upon us as a people, as a race. And that's how we see it. That's how we look at it as, did Brother Malcolm lie or did he tell the truth? And right now, on this day, in the year of our Lord 2022, September, it rings true still. We have to look at that statement that brother made all those years ago, that it's a corrupt, vicious, hypocritical system that has castrated the black man. And the only way the black man can get back at it is to strike at it the only way he know how. We don't want to go there. But if we do go there, then Caucasian America has to know that we were forced there. We had no other choice but to defend ourselves. And in any given situation, we may have to go on the offensive to defend ourselves. We're prepared to do that. If we can't get equal treatment when it comes to policing in America, we will not be pushed into this corner. We will not be pushed into this corner to continue to suffer these injustices, these slights. And it reeks in America. When the previous president came in office with his Make America Great Again agenda, racist Caucasians heeded the dog whistles, because you begin to see cops getting called on innocent Negroes in America simply for barbecuing, selling lemonade, selling bottled water. The cops being called because they didn't look like they belonged in that neighborhood. So the Caucasian America, especially policemen, to the higher ups into the police department that are hiring, maybe not properly screening, not properly doing a thorough background check. You shouldn't want to have to learn the hard way. But that's what's down the road if we don't change our ways. If we don't change our ways when it comes to police brutality in America, as it relates to Negroes in America and Negro communities in America. Enough already. We've suffered it long enough. As I said, we went from early on policing. The idea was, especially here in the South, to just create a crime, just make up a crime, just plant evidence, just give a complete frame job. And there was a young black male in jail, totally innocent. Now he's forced to work off his crime, to continue to make Caucasians down South rich, work off his crime that he didn't commit, simply on the whim of racist Caucasians that think that that's the way it should be. And now, like I say, fast forward from those times in Jim Crow up to now. Fast forward to now, where it's coming to an end. It's coming to an abrupt halt since Brother George Floyd. Now, as I said, officers want to resign en masse. They want to resign en masse. Not that the system is broken, and not because the criminals have more rights than the policemen. That's not the case. They simply want to resign. Our position here is soluble. They simply want to resign en masse because they can't do it anymore. They can't get away with it anymore. And they've been in that mind state so long. that mindset so long that it's like, well, I can no longer be in that profession because I've been doing it so long, I may forget and do it again. And then I got the body camera right there. That's irrefutable evidence. So, it's a sad situation for the police departments in America. It's not on Negroes in America. We expect law abiding citizens. And we expect that, if there's a Negro citizen who breaks the law, we expect him to be dealt with. We expect him to pay his debt to society. But what we expect also more than anything is equal protection under the law, a right to due process. And anything less than that is a non-starter. It's a deal breaker. And it should be to all Negroes in America. It should be a non-starter and a deal breaker. If when being confronted by a police officer, if we can't get equal justice, equal treatment, and due process, it should be considered unacceptable now. We have to put a period to it. We have to put a period on it. Or it's going to be passed off to what? To who? To our children. And, looking down at your little ones, you should have the heart and the courage to stand up and say, this must end. Stand up and say, this must end. So, when it comes to police brutality, if the officers want to resign en masse because they can't do it anymore, then let them. There's no need to be alarmed. If at the end of the day we have to police ourselves, then we have to have the courage, the guts to stand up and say it, to petition the government for a redress of grievances. And this is a major one. This is a major one because we can't be caught in the middle of lawlessness and crime from Negroes in America, Negroes in the Negro community who is wreaking havoc and just a blatant criminal. And then we're caught in the middle of that versus officers who now do not want to come into Negro communities and do their job because they have to give due process now. We can't be caught in the middle of that. So it's time to stand up. It's time to take a stand. And we have to be on the right side of history when it comes to this. And that's where we're at now. We're walking a tightrope. We're on the fence, and we have to come down on one side or the other. We can't play both sides, and we can't remain on the fence. This is a heck of a balancing act. So we have to come down on one side or the other. And that side should be fairness in policing and, reporting crime. The don't snitch, no snitching thing, that's for the idiot. That's for the ignorant. Of course, lawbreakers are not going to want you to snitch. But for us as a people to, take this anthem of no snitching to heart and actually do it would be a real setback in our communities. And it would be a real setback for us as a people. We should want to stop crime, prevent crime, live in a neighborhood where, there's little to no crime. Live in a neighborhood where you can go to work and come home and your house hasn't been burglarized and everything you work hard for stolen. So equal justice under the law, equal protection under the law, equal treatment, and due process are must-haves. They're must-have. We can't debate them. We can't negotiate when it comes to them. They're must-haves, as has been guaranteed under the Constitution. We must have them as American citizens because we're American citizens living under the Constitution. So we must have them by all means. So, in closing, that's where we're at here at Soluble. That's our position. Police brutality was out of control. But now we have to stand up more than ever. If you got your cell phone and able to record, please do so. Because We could have a situation here where an officer, he thought it was on. Um, he just charged his battery, but still the camera didn't activate. So it must the battery malfunction. They're gonna have all kind of excuses. So if you can still record with your cell phone, if you're right there in a position to record, then please do so, because that's what we're up against. The officers, he's gonna lie. If he has fear and or loathing in his heart and mind, he's gonna stoop to that low, to lie, to deceive. And he come up, he or she could come up with any excuse, any reason in the book, and there are a lot of them, to try to have his superiors to have an understanding as to why his body camera wasn't rolling during the time of the arrest. So don't go for it. Like I said, if you have your cell phone, be that cell phone army. Be that watchdog, if you will. Break them out. Break them out without no hesitation. And as I said before, it says a lot about police officers in America that now they have to, in a lot of police departments, body cameras are mandatory. It says a lot about your actions, because if your actions were sincere and wholesome from the beginning, we wouldn't have to be here. I mean, you already carry enough things around as an officer. Your gun, your badge, your taser. Now, a body camera worn around your neck, or pinned to your vest, or however it's attached to the uniform. It says a lot about the ethics and integrity of police officers and police departments across America, that they are now largely, soon to be on a whole, expected to wear body cameras. And it will continue to be a downfall. It will continue to go, as a negative stain on police departments and policing in America, period. If this isn't stopped. And, you know, a community needs police officers. Don't get me wrong. Our position here at Soluble is that communities, citizens, neighborhoods need police officers. We're not anti-police. We're not anti-police. We're anti-violent police. We're anti-hateful police. We're anti-fearful police. Because these begin to sow the seeds and make the excuses that takes the life of Negroes and subject them to brutality on a regular, random basis during traffic stops all across America. All across America. So, if you're a police officer out here in America today, if you can, you should be able to come home from your shift. And we're grateful that you went out into the community, you served and protected, and you've been able to come home to your family. But you should be able to come home to the family and look at the man in the mirror and be proud of yourself. Because this is not to set the Negro back. This is not to put the Negro in his place. This is not going to be the end result of this. This is not going to be the end result of it. Was there a time yesteryear when that could be accomplished? When that fear gripped Negroes in their communities across America? Yes, there was a time when they were gripped by fear. Fear of retaliation, fear of being framed, fear of being taken out on a back road and lynched or shot, with an excuse being that they tried to escape. And as I said, officers know now that they can't do it anymore. They can physically do it, but there's a severe price to pay. There's a severe price to pay. So, when it comes to police brutality, that's our position here in a nutshell. Fear and loathing. a need for thick skin, and a need to not see Negro citizens as second class. This will only cause you to lose your job, to possibly be sued, to possibly have your whole police department sued. And last but not least, something that we don't want it to go to, but it could lead to an eye for an eye. Because we can't, this is not sustainable. As I said, we cannot turn the other cheek because we've turned it already, and now both of them are bloody and bruised. So we have no other cheek to turn. And besides, it got us nowhere. We won't be seen as second class citizens in America. We won't be policed accordingly. We won't be. So this is a thought. This is a reflection. This is a time for reflection from any Caucasian police officers in America who have fear and loathing when it comes to policing Negro communities anywhere in America. This wholly unqualifies you from being a police officer. This wholly unqualifies you. Because out of your fear, you could panic and have a hair trigger and kill an innocent person of Negro origin. It could happen. Do you want that? Do you want that on your conscience? Now, in the past, we know by evidence, not by verbal reply, but by evidence, by case after case, that hell yeah, they wanted it, but no more because we've taken a stand now. So police brutality is on its way out, but it's going to be up to us as a people, as a citizenry, to bring it to extinction, to stay active, to stay engaged. As I said, we need the cell phone warriors out there, the cell phone recording warriors, because they will come up with any excuse in the book as to why the body camera wasn't rolling at the time. Besides that, the FBI has come forth with evidence that they may have people from hate groups infiltrated in the ranks of police officers. And that plays into the part of loathing that I discussed earlier. Based on FBI assessments, reports, analysis, there may be police officers who are part of hate groups who are coming over and joining the police force. And they very well could have a hidden agenda. So we have to stay alert. We have to stay alert. That's the only way that it's going to come to an end. It's not going to come to an end by Caucasian instituted ideas only. We're going to have to get active, and we're going to have to demand equal justice under the law. We will not be emasculated. We will not made to be treated or to feel like we should, subject ourselves or to lower ourselves to acting like a scared little boy when we're actually men. We're not going to be subject to intimidation, threats. So the only other recourse for police officers is to do your job, and to do your job by the book. By the book. You go through the book. You go through the training. It's thorough training. It's a lengthy training. And by the time you're done with that training, you should be, ready to hit the streets of America as a major crime solver, as a major deterrent to those who would want to commit crimes. As I said, you're not being trained. And then, you go out on the beat and you go out on patrol and you realize that, okay, Negroes are doing things different now. They're acting different. They've changed. Their attitude towards me is different. Their attitude towards respect for the law is different. This is not the case. They've been breaking the law for years. So one-time training, one time on the job. We as Negroes in America, we can no longer accept an excuse that the officer needs to go back in to have more training. If it's in his heart and if it's in his mind, fear and or loathing, there's no amount of training that can change that or that can correct that. This makes him wholly unqualified. Unless the officer has a come to Jesus moment and, he changes. He has a change of heart. And we're not saying that this is impossible, but that's the only way. Other than a come to Jesus moment, this should totally disqualify any person from being a police officer in America. Police brutality is on its way out, but we have to stay active and we have to stay engaged and we have to hold police departments accountable, not just the officer, but the whole department. We have to hold them accountable because one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch. So for the officers out there who are doing their job, who are officers of integrity, ethics, have, high standards and respect for the citizenry, and you have a bad officer amongst your ranks, then it's up to you to bring that to your superior's attention, not to look the other way. You have to report that because then it's a negative reflection on the whole police department. And you're not going to get respect for the law when the law doesn't respect the citizen. There's no way you're going to get that. And they know it. Caucasian policemen out here with fear and loathing in their heart, they know this. So it's evident as I said today, they're resigning en masse. Not that the system is broken. Not that Negroes are committing crimes and getting away with it. It's because they can't do it anymore. They can't get away with it. The good old days are gone. So if I can't do it like that, then that's it. I'm quitting. I don't need this. I joined the force to, crack Negro skulls anytime I felt like it. And, just on a whim. If I wanted to do it just for kicks. And I can't do it anymore, okay, that's it. I'm out of here. Let's make the police departments all across America better. We can all day to day, with each day we live, with each day or the rising of the sun, we wake up to see another day, we can strive to be better than we were the day before. This is what we expect out of our police officers. And police brutality will be a thing of the past. So in closing, we have to, put our best foot forward here. We can't, get caught up in negative propaganda, lies. And that's what we tried to point out here at Soluble. The lie is that, the misleading statement or the misleading thought or intention is that Negroes want to get are committing crime and they want to get away with it. They don't want to be arrested. They don't want to be apprehended. They want to commit crime and just run rampant all over America, committing crime and getting away with it. That's false. That's totally false. Negroes in America, they want safe neighborhoods, safe communities, safe places for their kids to go to school, safe places to go to the grocery store, to the parks, whatever. They want the same safety. They want the same crime-free environments that Americans of other stripes want. But equal treatment under the law is what we demand. And it's what we haven't been getting. Equal treatment under the law, no matter what the situation. Equal treatment under the law. And, we see the biasness there when it comes to crimes of the same magnitude or on the same level that is committed by other races. We see it. We don't have to go into, each individual incident or individual details. But, to the police departments all across America, know that we see it and we are aware of it. And we won't take it laying down anymore. So it's going to be up to you. Can you check yourself? Can you reprogram your thought, your intentions when it comes to policing in Negro communities? And if not, then the policing profession is not for you, because brutality has no place in the police department. You have restraints. You have weapons to protect yourself. So there's no need for police officers in America to have to resort to brutality on another citizen. If he's being attacked, if he's being, approached by someone that they're attempting to arrest and they feel like their life is in danger, of course, there are legitimate instances. But there are more instances where these things are made up. These situations are made up, and an excuse is given, or you have an excuse to use force or to use violence, and that's no longer accepted. We'd like to thank you for joining us on this broadcast, on this podcast tonight, covering the issue of police brutality in America. As I said, we wouldn't dive into individual instances. They're all there. The painful reminders are all there. And here at Soluble, we wanted to take it from an approach of, what do we do about it? How do we recognize it? And then once we recognize it, what do we do about it? What do we do going forward to ensure that police brutality in America, especially in Negro communities, goes away? And one giant first step will be an officer possessing fear and or loathing in their hearts and minds. Not only should they not patrol in Negro communities, this should wholly disqualify them from being a police officer, and another profession, another line of work should be sought. So we attempted to take the route of solving the problem, not, recognizing individual occurrences or individual instances where it occurred. They're all well documented, and they're painful reminders. So in closing, we hope we've been able to shed some light on what we can do to bring about a solution to police brutality in America, because that's the whole purpose here at Soluble, is to try to find a solution to the problem for the betterment of mankind. We'd like to thank you for coming out. We'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. Feel free to add, comment, ask a question, and we will, gladly revisit this subject if necessary. Police brutality in America. We will gladly revisit it if necessary. We thank you for joining us tonight, and we look forward to keeping you informed and bringing you information when it comes to politics, when it comes to issues in America that can help make your lives better, make you more aware of the problem, and join us here at Soluble in finding a solution to any problem that may arise. So, for the issue of police brutality in America, this is Soluble's opinion. This is our best intelligent assessment we can come up with as far as stopping police brutality in America. We thank you for joining us. We hope we've been enlightening, and we hope we've been eye-opening to the point where we can all get through this together. So, at the end of the day, no matter what, whether we get it from critics, whether we get it from supporters, whether we get it from haters, whether we get it from, citizens who care, at the end of the day, we're only looking for a solution. And that's the whole purpose here. So this is Soluble ending this issue, this discussion on police brutality tonight. We thank you for joining us, and we look forward to bringing you informative information in the near future. This is Soluble signing out. Thank you and good night.